up, everybody? Welcome to Discourse Chill. I'm Ian.
And I'm your girl, Reese.
Today, we're going to talk about the recent Supreme Court ruling that essentially put the power back into the states, taking away the constitutional right of abortion to all women. First, we really wanted to start off with a little statement. On behalf of all of us here at Discourse and Chill, we wholeheartedly believe the woman's right to choose is a fundamental right, especially to make decisions that affect their lives and bodies. In the wake of the June 24th ruling, we are saddened, frustrated, and upset in the decision made by the few that affect the masses of this country. Reese, tell me how you're feeling in this moment and how that, like hearing that ruling made you feel.
So, the first thing that came to my mind was America out here, Americaning again. Like, here we go. It is very upsetting to know that as a woman, I essentially don't have the choice or the power to say what I can do with myself. And it is very frustrating. Time and time again, women are an afterthought or have been like controlled or managed or as if we don't have the common sense to make sound decisions for ourselves. So it's very upsetting, to say the least. It is definitely um it just makes you think and question, like, how am I viewed as a woman? What do people value me as? And it is really upsetting. It's just upsetting, to say the least. Um yeah. As a man, how did you react to the ruling?
I think as a man, I feel very Mm, I feel afraid for the future, right? Like I'm saddened that so
Hmm.
many women are losing these rights that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in my belief, that are constitutional things like the autonomy to control your body is in
Yeah.
like a constitutional right. Like it's nobody's business what you choose to do and how you choose to proceed with the things that go on in your body. Like anything, in my
Yes.
opinion. Like it just, so for me, I think of it like, okay, they're willing to take away this. What else are they willing or trying to take away in the future? Because it
Right.
starts with the marginalized people, right? Like for me, this all starts with the Black Lives Matter movement. Now they're moving to women. Now it's just going to continue to like build upon like different groups of people that they try to take away rights from. And so
Mhm.
it just leaves me fearful for what's happening in the future. And like I said, continue to be saddened because I know that I have autonomy in my body, and I think that you as a woman should have autonomy of your body and your decisions and how you want to proceed going forward, whether you want to start a family or not. You know, like those are your decisions to make, and it just makes me lose the little bit of like respect and faith I had in America. Like it's like
Yeah.
this much now. Like it was already small,
Yeah.
but now it's just like that much smaller.
Mhm.
No.
I agree.
So I think for
And
the
in the
oh,
decision, I'm sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, in the decision that they made, it definitely affects women first, but there was no accountability for men either in the regard, so many women have abortions due to things that have happened to them by men. So it's like, it's it's one of those things where it's like, you can tell me what I can do and what I can and can't do with myself, but things that cause me to be in this situation are gone unspoken, unaccounted for. There's no consequence. It's all on me as the woman. So if
Hmm.
I'm walking home get drugged, down an alley and raped by some guy that I have no idea who he is, his background, his sexual status in regards to diseases or anything, and I end up pregnant, then that's something that I have to carry. That's something that I have to, come to terms with. An unwanted pregnancy by somebody I don't know. I've already lost trust now and I'm feeling some sort of way. So I'm traumatized by the event. And in that trauma, I have to now raise a kid and be okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things where um it's all on women. It's always on the woman to figure it out, but there's no consequence for the men who are making these decisions for the women to figure out. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be clear, like the the ruling does not like make abortion illegal. It gives the discretion for each state to choose. And yes, in some states that is absolutely the case. Like you can be raped by someone you don't know, by a family member. Your pregnancy could be ectopic and be a problem for your health, and you still have to carry this child to term regardless of the circumstance in some states, which is like beyond me, like absolutely beyond. So I I feel terribly and like frustrated and saddened that there are men out there who are making these like laws and wanting to implement them to like police the women in their jurisdiction or in their state, and it makes no sense. I don't know what the point is. I don't know what the end goal is. Like it just saddens me. So I think we would like to do is give everyone a little bit of background on like where we started and where we are now. So Reese, do you want to like share kind of some of the things that we learned regarding Roe v. Wade?
Yes, I'll do a quick summarization. Basically, in January of 1973, the Supreme Court voted 7-2, striking down a Texas law banning abortion. And basically, they legalized the procedure nationwide. It established that abortion was a constitutional right, and it divided pregnancy into 3 different trimesters. It was able to allow the woman to have full choice for herself to terminate a pregnancy in the first trimester. When it came down to like second trimester, the government had a right to like say, hey, we're going to regulate this a little bit, and prohibited abortions when it came down to the third trimester if it protected the fetus who could survive on its own outside of the womb, which means that they didn't have to be on like life support or anything like that. If you could birth the baby and they were healthy in the third trimester, it basically like you can't do it then. It prohibited abortions in the third trimester. Unless it affected the health of the woman. So if it put a woman in danger, if her having that baby would cost her life, then the government would step aside and let that be the decision of the woman and or the parents.
Absolutely. And I think the part of this that is the best is that it protects the woman's right of choice and her life. And I think those are the things that we're stepping away from in this new ruling. Like, we also have to mention, please do some research on Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which gives some leeway for the trimester prohibitions that were instated in this one. So do some research on Planned Parenthood versus Casey as well, because that kind of supports Roe v. Wade, but also gives some leeway for the trimester schedule that was initially offered in this ruling.
So that leads us to where we are today, going out of Roe v. Wade and the Planned Parenthood cases that supported Roe v. Wade into where we are as of 2 days ago. You want to talk about Dobbs versus Jackson a little bit?
Yes. So Dobbs versus Jackson was essentially Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, and the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution does not confer any right to abortion, which overrules Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. This ruling gives the states discretion to legalize, regulate, restrict, and ban abortions. So I want to make something clear that this does not essentially make abortion illegal. It just makes it up to the state's discretion, which is the problem. Because
Yes.
there are a lot of states who had trigger laws who went into effect immediately, and there are other states who will be
Mm-hmm.
voting on laws. And I think if this was something that we're going to vote on, this is something that, you know, it's okay. But the fact that so many states had trigger laws and they're telling women that the autonomy of their body is not a constitutional right is
Yeah.
is hurtful in a way. You know, like it's hurtful in
Yeah.
a way, in so many ways, in every way. Um, it's also said
Yeah.
that the ideological shift of the Supreme Court that culminated with the 2020 appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, who was outspoken against abortion before her appointment, made Dobbs a potential challenge for Roe v. Wade. And the last thing I want to speak on before I get some comments from Reese is that Justices Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch all said that Roe versus Wade was the law of the land during their confirmation hearings, but all changed course in what, 2 years? Amy Cohen's been there
Yeah.
for 2 years. Brett Kavanaugh's been for 3 or 4 years. Neil Gorsuch 8 to 6 years. So they all changed course.
Mhm.
So that means, in my opinion, they flat out lied to get the job, and now they're in there making
Yeah.
changes that affect everyone. So, Reese, like,
Yeah.
where, how does this make you feel? Where do you stand? Like, I know where you stand, but like, what are your thoughts on this?
So it makes you question the judicial system. You know, we have Supreme Court that currently consists of 9 people making the decision for 330 billion people. You know, so for
Million.
9 people to say,
Yeah.
right, this like 9 people to say this is what we're gonna do for everybody. Like, yeah, we're the end all be all, I think is archaic at this
Mm-hmm.
moment. You know, we have moved past the time of what the Supreme Court used to look like. And I feel like there needs to be some kind of restructuring or something that adds a different layer of protection for the quote unquote
Mm-hmm.
American people. Um, the decisions that have been made are, you know, they're lopsided. They don't lean towards the majority of people. And some of the justices have been on for decades. So it's like, you know, your ideology, come on, use your word, Sharice, um, might be a little bit uh, of the days of yesteryear, if you
Mm-hmm.
would. You know, we need some more progressive and forward thinking people. And for it to be a term of, you know, once you in for life. You know, like is the Supreme Court a gang? Jump in, jump out, like you in this thing forever. You know, so it's really crazy that we allow the same people the final say, and that I think needs to be revisited, especially when it comes down to choices that deal with individual groups of people, um and how they can manage themselves. You know, like, is this really a democracy at this point? You're telling me what I can do, what I can't do
Mm-hmm.
with myself. So we need to really look at some of the practices that we have adopted and continue, and try to figure out like the new normal, if that makes sense. Like, some things really need to be
Mm-hmm.
restructured, and 9 people can't be the voice for 330 million.
I totally agree. And I think that the other problem I have is that somebody else's Christian values are impeding on the masses, right? Like, I respect your right to religion. I respect your right to believe what you believe. What I will not accept
Mhm.
is your ability to press your ideological religious beliefs on me and make that law. You know, like, I think that is one of the biggest problems. You know, like, America is like the land of the free, and you have like the right to religious freedom, freedom of speech, all these freedoms that we apparently I'm putting that freedoms in quotes because I feel like
Right.
freedoms is a stretch. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, like people are using their religious freedoms to enact law, right?
Hmm.
Like that's not
Yeah.
what we're supposed to have,
Yeah.
a separation of church and state. But you're using your religious
Hmm.
beliefs to enact laws that affect the autonomy of people who don't necessarily believe in the same way that you do. Because I've read the Bible
Exactly.
once and I still don't know where it says that abortion is a bad thing. I don't know where it is in the Bible. So if somebody could leave a
Yeah.
comment and put it down below, put it down below.
A whole mess. We always interpret things as people. We interpret things for what they mean to us and what makes the narrative okay for us, and not
Mhm,
necessarily what it actually means. So
mhm,
I think that people find a way to say, oh, religion or the Bible or, overall law of the land as their way to push their ideas and their beliefs onto other people. It is
mhm,
really frustrating to know that people are speaking out and saying, "Hey, this is not something that we want." Once they got leaked a few weeks ago that this decision was coming up,
mhm.
and people were very adamant, but like, no, 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 this is not what we want. This, you can't overrule it. Like, you're gonna cause all these snowball effects, and it was still people that was there would say, "Oh, they don't want it, but we don't care," And that
Yeah.
that to me
Mhm,
is where the breakdown comes in, where there's an actual problem with how things are structured in this country when it comes to laws and making decisions for the masses. That like nine
mhm.
people versus 330 million is like the equation don't equate. Like, it's not a majority
Yeah.
rule when it comes to that. The math ain't mathing, because that's not how it should be still in 2022. And I think the decision on June 24th showed that we definitely need to look at and restructure and figure out like how this part is flawed and how we allowed it to get to this point that we are now overturning laws or rulings that are beneficial to people. And I
Mhm.
think we're going to see an impact that we haven't been prepared for. um yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I'm just curious on what's next, right? Like there was a senator who tweeted about Brown versus Board of Education, and
Hmm.
it was very
Ferguson versus
vague and
Plessy should
cryptic.
be next.
Yeah, it was like
Hmm.
Plessy versus Ferguson / Brown versus Education should be do that next, in
Hmm.
response to
Yep.
President Obama tweeting about the sad news that was delivered on Friday. And I'm not going to assume what he meant. I'm not. But what did he mean? And is something of that magnitude next, right? Like what's
Right.
like is that
Right.
something that he thinks about? Like how can we now address like Brown versus Education? So for some context, Plessy
Right.
versus Ferguson essentially was the separate but equal ruling that
Hmm.
the Supreme Court held down, and then Brown versus Education is a ruling that overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. So the two perspectives that I've seen have been, well, he was making the comparison between what Roe v. Wade was to Dobbs versus Jackson, and the other
Hmm.
comparison was like he's saying he wants a new law or something else to help change what Brown versus Board of Education was. So I could see it both
Hmm.
ways, especially coming from, a 79-year-old Caucasian man from Illinois. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know where
Hmm.
he stands regarding Brown versus Board of Education. I know where he stands versus when it comes to this ruling, but I'm curious to see or hear what he has to say about that tweet and what it meant. and give some real context and stand behind his words instead of hiding behind the crypticness of it. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny. There have been a lot of messages out by senators. That one in particular, I for myself, I interpreted as he was
Uh-huh.
talking in regards to segregation and the education of our people.
Mm-hmm.
So like you saying that we need to go back to being segregated, sir. I'm confused. Like you want to
Yeah,
overturn these
exactly.
things. So you want us to be separate and not equal at the same time. Like what are we talking about? There was
Exactly.
a senator who tweeted out that they believe in pro choice, and plan B was next. Taking away plan B was next. And
Mm-hmm.
a young lady retweeted it and was like, "That's funny that your son forced me to take a plan B after we hooked up, but carry on." So it's like, you out here. Yeah, she did exactly. You telling us that
Mm-hmm.
abortion isn't right, and you're pro-choice, and I mean you're pro-life, and we don't need to be doing X, Y, and Z. But your whole son out here, as old folks say, hunching and telling people to pop a plan B. Like, make it make sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Did you see that the U.S. Representative Mary Miller had a rally and former President Donald Trump was there, and she said that the overturning of Roe v. Wade was a victory for white life.
Yes, I saw that.
She did this in
Um,
public at a whole rally in front of a whole bunch of people. Like,
yeah,
is that the goal? Is the goal to like make it make sense? A victory for white life? Are you serious?
yeah. So I was really hoping that it was like a slip and she meant to say life but said white and then tried to go back and say life. And I played it a couple of times just to hear. Benefit of the doubt. I rarely give that. So I'm like, maybe she didn't mean white life. Maybe she meant a victory for life, but white came out, and yeah, no. I tried to help her out a little bit. I wanted to give her some benefit, but it's just all doubt at this point. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's really crazy. Yeah.
I thought it was very telling, and like
Hmm.
it's where America is, right? Because make America great again. The fact that the thing that makes America great in the first place is its diversity, right? Like the fact that it makes the things that make America great are our like quote unquote freedoms and our ability
Hmm.
to quote unquote pull yourself up by the bootstraps, all that opportunity. And when it comes
Hmm.
down to it, it seems though the agenda continues to be reiterated in our minds that it's not about that. It is about the excellence
Yeah.
or the pursuit of power for white people. And that's when
Hmm.
like the true power of America is on display, I guess. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
it hurts and it's sad that so many people have can sit and listen to it and not speak out about it. Like there are
Hmm.
so many people who wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the diversity or if it wasn't for black people, Native Americans, Mexican Americans,
Hmm.
like all the people who came from other places made America what it is. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
like it has become this like low key but very high key, like white supremacist slash white power slash privileged America that we're now combating to
Yeah.
like find a space to like just exist safely, right? Like I feel like me as a black man,
Yeah.
you as a black woman, women as a whole, right? Like I don't think like privileged white women like you are under attack as well, right? Like everybody is, if you're not a white man, you are essentially, I don't want to say disposable, but it feels that way to me in this country. It
Yeah.
feels very disposable. Like
Yeah.
I'm very much not necessary, not needed, not valued in this space. And there's always these reminders of that continually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get it. Especially when you say, it's everything is centered towards white men, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to not feel disposable. However, actions keep showing that the thought process is that you are disposable.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody made the comment and was like, what are they going to do now with all the mixed babies that are on the way? Because some
Mm-hmm.
people have forced their white daughters to have abortions when they found out that they have been impregnated by someone of a different race. So again, it's like it's so much like that has taken place by this one decision. A lot of things have not been thought
Mm-hmm.
out fully, and it's going to be it's about to be a shit show, and it's so crazy. Like, we are the embarrassment of the world. Every time you turn around, America has done something again that has us like, oh
Mm-hmm.
God, like, don't mind us, like, there's nothing to see here, but it's all to see. It's
Mm-hmm.
ignorance on full display. Every time you turn around, there's something different, some new ruling or action, or you know just it's just all a shit show at this point. Someone
Yeah.
said that guns have more security than women do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's more laws that are restrictive to women than there are to guns. And then there was a comment that was, now that we're having these kids, who's going to protect them from the school shootings once they get here?
That
Like,
part.
the
Mm-hmm.
priorities are all in the wrong place. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
want to regulate and put restrictions on people versus these things that people are using. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just crazy. And I feel like we just stepped back into 1970, and it's about to be, I don't know, it's like they say, the sign of the times. It's gonna be um an uprising in America, and it's slowly building. And I don't know how it's gonna play out. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't even think it's the tip of the iceberg. I think it is. We're in the middle of the iceberg right now, right? Like, I think we're in a place where there are things that have been happening that have been leading to this, right? Like, I think this
Yeah.
is something that, if you just think about the last 10 years, right? Like, you have police shootings, you have school shootings, you have mass murders. Like, think about the violence
Mhm.
that has like erupted in this country, and think about like the lack of
Yeah.
action that you have seen for this country in that face, right? And then you think of,
Yeah.
a lot of people haven't heard about this, but I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Supreme Court passed a ruling saying that if you live within 100 miles of a U.S. border, so like the outside border of the U.S., your house can be
Mhm.
searched by the U.S. Border Patrol without a warrant. So like, when we say that we like have this right to privacy, the question is now, do
Mhm.
we? Right? Like, do we have this right to
Right.
privacy? Like, because now if you live within 100 miles of a U.S. border, you don't have a right to say no to somebody who's gonna quote unquote illegally search your seizure. Like, they don't need probable cause, they don't need a warrant. They can come in and search for undocumented individuals. And now you have this that
Yeah.
happens. And so like, we're on a path of like just stripping away slowly and silently the rights and privileges of people in the United States. Like, there is no,
Yeah.
it's been a steady, I think it's been a steady thing. And I think George Floyd was paramount, because it brought a lot of attention to like the killings of black people at the hands of police, but also I think it also diminishes the length of time that we as black people have been dealing with that in our community, right? So people look at that like, oh, this is just like, this is the moment. Yeah, but it's really the tip of the iceberg if you look back 50, 60, 100 years of all the unjust killings, right? And now you have the U.S. Border Patrol that's able to do search and seizure, and now we have women who are no longer like able to make decisions about their bodies. And not in every state, I know, in some states, but the fact that it's not a constitutional like right to say, look, I want to do X, Y, and Z with my body, right? Like, and just that's it. And it's nobody's business. Like, who are we going to and asking for permission to like do these things? Like, if I go somewhere, if a woman goes somewhere, if I go to Walmart and I want to buy condoms, the person I'm buying condoms for is not like, who are you going to use these on? What is this for? Is this for homosexual sex? Right? Like, is this for like heterosexual sex? Like, what are you going to do with these condoms? You know why? Because I have a right to privacy. So I can go to the store, buy my condoms, go about my business, do what I would like. And now we're telling ladies, like, you don't have the right to make those decisions for your future. And also, we're not going to put anything in place that hold men accountable for anything that they may do to you. And it ain't like men don't do. Men do. Men out here like reckless. Right? Reckless.
And
women don't feel safe.
That's the part. That's the part that it's like making it make sense, you know? So you're telling me that a man can get me pregnant, I have to come to terms with it. A man can rape me, I have to come to terms with this. Once I have this child that I probably can't afford, and this man leaves me by myself, then oh well, I have to figure it out. You know, like there's so many things that are like in this gray area now. You know, it has been said multiple times that if women don't have the choice to make in regards to carrying a pregnancy to term or terminating pregnancy, then men need to be put on child support from the
moment of conception.
The notice of conception. Yep, the point of conception. Exactly. So it's like, okay, well, oh, boom, I'm pregnant. All right, it's yours. So let's go ahead and get some checks coming in, you know? And it's,
absolutely.
You know, again, there's no accountability. There's no accountability when it comes down to the men. A woman cannot get pregnant by herself. She cannot impregnate herself. Like, that's not how it works, you know? Now, of course, there are these different, like you can go to sperm banks and all that kind of stuff to become impregnated, but it takes male sperm in order for it to happen. So, you know, it's just, again, it's all these things that people, you know, you can tell me what I can do, but you can't tell the person that's doing it to me what they have to do in the same sentence. Like, make that make sense, you know? And then, like, you know, again, we haven't touched on the impact that is to come. Especially for me, my first thing is like thinking about women's health and people that are in these states where it is illegal to have an abortion, or where someone who takes them, like if I drive someone to get an abortion, I can also then be charged with, you know, helping, assisting, if you would, you know. So that's gonna turn us back into the day of all these back alley, underground, you know, unsafe abortions that people were doing to quote unquote get rid of a pregnancy, but hide so that they don't get into trouble or legal trouble. Like we have really stepped back into 1970. Like, it's ridiculous. Especially if someone is not financially able to travel to a neighboring state, or wherever it is legal for them to have procedure done, then like how many
Mm-hmm.
people are going to start throwing themselves down the stairs, or well, if I drink this, then or take that, like we haven't thought about all of the consequences that can come and happen to the health of women. Even the ideal of, if my health is at risk, if me carrying this baby to term can essentially cost me my life, then I still have to risk my life to give birth. So not only one, might I die, but then two, you have another baby that's without a parent. So the foster care system is going to increase even more. It's like it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Um, and they always want to talk about, oh, but they on welfare and needing government assistance and all this kind of extra stuff. But if I'm already impoverished and can't afford myself and or the kids that I may or may not already have, how can I put this financial strain on myself and think that it's going to be, oh, it's going to be easier now, it's going to be better, I don't know where this money's going to come from. The next thing they're going to
Mm-hmm.
come after will be welfare and contraceptives and food stamps, and it's I don't know. This level of control is out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think women's health and unsafe abortions, like, this doesn't ban abortions. This just creates space for there to be unsafe abortion, in my opinion. And like,
Yeah.
it's sad to me because that is a space, like, we're a quote unquote first world country, right? Like, we have
Yeah.
access. Well, let's talk about what we don't have access to, right? We don't have universal health care. We don't have access to maternity leave, right? We don't have access to child care. Like, so many countries have access to these things that we don't have access to. And we have states like
Yeah.
Kentucky who who ban abortions under every circumstance, rape, incest,
Mhm.
like pregnancy, all circumstances, but also cut government estate assistance as well. So you're telling me that,
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
want these people to have these kids, and then you're like, but we're not going to help you. We're not going to give
Yeah.
you any
Yeah.
recourse. And if you leave the state, we're going to prosecute you for getting an abortion. So you're
Yeah.
going to, like, just
Yeah.
increase our healthcare dollars when people have unsafe
Mhm.
abortions, increase state
Yeah.
regulated foster homes and things like that, increase
Yeah.
potentially the death toll of a state. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like,
Yeah.
what is the point? There's
Yeah.
no good end in sight for these states that have all of these restrictions, and then say, we're not going to give you anything you need support wise to help you, but we want you to have this baby
Mhm.
because that life is more important than what, the health of the mother, than the welfare of the
Yeah.
mother, than anything. And it's really
Yeah.
sad to even think that this is where we are as a country
Yeah.
that claims to
Yeah.
be
I mean, and not
the
only
best in the world.
yeah, not only that though, when you talked about, like, the health of the mother, or somebody taking care of the child, but you also have to look at the impact on the economy. Like, if I can't afford to take care of the kids that I have, then I definitely can't afford to put anything extra into the economy of my area. So I don't know, first world is it's all relative to whose definition it is, because
Yeah.
it's looking real third worldish to me. It's just it's one of those things. And then you think about all the kids that are currently in foster care, and
Mm-hmm.
the number of that may potentially go up. There's so many children that have been abandoned or left behind for a very various reasons, to include just not
Yeah.
being wanted. So to add to that, that not only is it a situation where the child wasn't wanted, but now there's a situation where the mother died trying to give birth to the child, and there's nobody here to take care of it, because the dad ain't held accountable. He can, shoot the club up and move on about his business, like it's just been, like there's no course of action that says that the men responsible for this have to also be accountable. It's all on the woman, and it's going to increase the number of issues that we have. It's going to add to the financial strains that are within minority communities. It's going to add to the need for government assistance that's being cut out. So, like, make it make sense. Like, are you trying to have it so that the country is fully dependent on, this quote unquote dictatorship that we're leaning towards? Because, there's no democracy here. You're telling me what I'm going to do, what I can and can't do. So are we trying to circle back to dictatorship on the low? We're legalizing dictatorship in this moment. Like, what are we doing?
I mean, I think it's just all about control of women's bodies. I was having some discourse with someone on Twitter of all places, and they were like, they're a pro-lifer, and I was like, are you anti-capital punishment? And they were like, no, I believe in the death penalty. I was like, you're not pro-life then. Like, you don't get to pick and choose
pro-life?
What life is important. Exactly. You don't get to pick and choose what life is important, like, at all. Like, you have to. If we're going to be pro-life, we're going to say that police killing is wrong in every instance, right? Like, period. And that the death penalty needs to be obsolete. Like, if we're saving every life, we care about every life, but do we? Do we care about every life? Do we care about the mother's life who has to carry a potential child to term, that it may, like, cause trauma or kill her? Do we care? Like, legitimately. We here at Discourse and Chill care. I know I care. I think that the woman's right to choose is a constitutional human right. So, like, what are we doing in America that this is a sword that we fall on so hard and so strong? Like, what control, to what end are we going to, like, continue to, like, scream from the rafters or the rooftop, like, that we're this country that believes in life, but we have so many gun deaths and nobody wants to do anything about guns, right? Like, they're like, we lead the world in mass shootings and gun death. So let's just make it really difficult to get guns. Like, we don't have to ban them, but let's, maybe you gotta wait 2 months. Maybe you gotta get a damn license to carry a gun. Maybe you gotta take a class, because I got a license to drive my car. I had to take a class to drive my car. I have insurance to protect me and other people if I hurt somebody. So maybe we implement the same thing, right? You take a class, you got to get insurance, right? So you shoot somebody, you kill somebody, it's on you, right? And then maybe it take a minute to get a gun, and you got to register it, and you got to do continuing education,
right?
And let's implement some things, like. But no, in America, like, I can go get a gun right now. I can stop this show. It is what? 11:44 my time on Sunday. I can go to the store and buy a gun at the pawn shop. I'll be back here in the next 3 hours. I don't have I don't have a Colorado license.
You can go to Walmart. You can go to Walmart. You can walk right into Walmart and get.
There's a pawn shop down the street from my house that I know I can go in and buy a gun right now, And so it's just, it saddens me and it hurts, and I feel for, like, so many women out there, and I feel for the women who it doesn't affect on a regular basis because maybe they have the financial means to do what they need to do. I feel for the women who have, like, no ability to like have the option. And I feel for the children who may be born into a situation that may be traumatic for the mother and they're not going to necessarily get the love. Like, I just feel for so many different scenarios and people in situations that it just hurts me. It just hurts me that this country doesn't see everyone as equal. And I know that they don't, right? Like, I'm not stupid. I understand, like, I'm not seen as a whole person. Like, but it just, I'm tired of being reminded of how I'm seen and how others are seen, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy when your quote unquote worth or value has been put on full display. You know, are we back on like the auction blocks again? Like, you know what I'm saying? This is what you're worth, you know? Like, it's just, at this point, it's getting to be ridiculous. As a woman who has have choices about her body made for her, I could say that it is a horrible situation to be in. And the trauma of that sticks with you for a long time. You know, there are times when like you're like, okay, you know, I'm good, I'm over that, and then like at the drop of a dime, you get triggered by something. You know, so I don't think people think of the psychological traumas that come with actions that other people choose for people, you know, and to say that this is what it is, you know, your state can tell you what you can do, you know, okay, well then just move to another state. What if I can't afford to move to another state, you know? And it's just all these, oh well, you can do this or you can do that, or I don't have the freedom in the land of the free to do those things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other impacts that I see as like just a man in society, like I think about like the kids, the boys specifically, who are young boys growing up in this America, and like specifically, I would say like white boys, white that will be white men eventually, and even some brown boys as well. Like, how do we continue to like show kids that we don't value women the same way we value men in action, right? So like, I was brought up in a home where like women were here, everybody else was below, right? Like my grandmother, my mama, like the women in my life I love. And I feel that our society is not showing us the love for women in these moments. And I feel like there are going to be men who grow up in 15, 20 years who are not going to respect women in the way that they should, who are not going to treat women in the way that they should, who are going to see that our governments have shown us time after time after time after time that women are not the same, that they're not equal, that they're disposable, like their life matters less than what they can produce. You know, like it doesn't make sense. Like, we all came from a woman, right? All of us.
Yeah. Even the ones who voted
came
got a mama
from a woman. And
right. Like,
and so it's amazing to me that we have this like just continued like we're gonna build up and then diminish, right? We're gonna build up and diminish, and I feel like that's what we've been doing with women, and I hate it. And I heard something the other day, and it said that white men are the only people in America that have not had a constitutional amendment, right? The Constitution was written for them by them, you know? And so, like, women, black women, black men, we've all had amendments to exist wholly within this country, to, like, have the freedoms, to have the ability to have the opportunity at this life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We had to be written in to this quote unquote American dream. You know, like when the founding fathers took their ass to sleep, they weren't dreaming about us. Right? The American dream didn't include us.
right.
Like we had to like, oh, y'all go back to sleep and write us into the dream so we can also
Right.
have access to this thing that I'm not sure I want anymore, honestly, because it doesn't seem to be. It seems to
Yeah.
be a bit of a nightmare, and I don't know. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't seem to be
Yes.
something that is, unless you're a white man, that is beneficial. It just seems hurtful, and like
Yeah.
I have to either take the stance
Right.
of creating something, be powerful, and start making decisions in a way that is detrimental to the people that I love or to the people who look like
Mhm.
me. Like good old Clarence
Yeah.
Thomas in the damn Supreme Court out here just living a lie. Like he is the literal
Yeah.
definition of the sunken place. Like I feel like Get Out was made for him, right? Like I feel like at this point
Right.
we know
Right. And
where he
it's
got that idea from.
yeah. And the crazy part with that too is Clarence Thomas and others sit on the Supreme Court who are accused of sexual misconduct. And you're trying to say that you're dictating what can happen to a woman when you, sirs, have violated, women in that regard. So you tell me that no matter what happens to me, sexual assault or otherwise, if you, sexual assaulter, impregnates me, I have to carry this to
Yeah.
term. So like even that hypocrisy is like what?
Former President Trump.
It's just crazy. What he trying to grab him by. So I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point. It is really
Yeah.
ridiculous, and it is a sad day for America because yet again, America has shown up as its whole self and been out here Americaning in front of the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be remiss if I don't mention this. I want to talk about like how important this is and how it affects black women, especially in those states. Like in America, our healthcare system ain't shit. Let's be honest. Let's be real honest. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are where my dad lives, for example, he has to drive at least an hour and a half to get to a decent healthcare system, right? So like, and true, he has the means and he has a choice to do so, but he has a hospital in his city that literally like people die at on a regular basis because they don't have the capacity, the talent, or the technology to like assist in so many
Wow.
things. And we live in America where
Yeah.
black women have a higher maternal mortality rate that is 2 to 3 times higher than white women in America, right? So like if you're a black
Yeah.
woman in America and you're like, okay, I have to think about one, I want to have this baby, right? And two,
Mhm.
the healthcare system is not set up or does not support me in a way that makes it safe for me
Yeah.
to have this baby, right? And whether that be
Yeah.
because of quality of healthcare or structural racism or implicit bias
Mhm.
or just underlying health
Yeah.
conditions, they're in a place where they really have to think through having a child in America
Mhm.
because they're more likely to die giving birth. Just
Yep.
wrap your head around that. Just because of the color of their skin, they're more
Yeah.
likely to die because we have grown up in
Yeah.
a society where you go to the doctor and I'll give y'all a personal example. My freshman year of college, I sprained my ankle, and I put it in air quotes because I knew it wasn't sprained because I heard it pop. I went to the doctor. They sent me home the same day telling me that it was sprained. A couple weeks later, I went back.
Mhm.
A couple months later, I went back. This went on for 3 years. I went to the hospital until I finally got a doctor who looked like me and was like, you know what, I'm going to get you? I'm going to get you an MRI
Mhm.
because I can't see anything wrong, but I
Mhm.
believe you and I think there's something wrong here. End up, I have bone
Mhm.
spurs, I have torn ligaments, I have all this cartilage, all these problems in my ankle. Finally have surgery
Mhm.
3.5 years later after doing this
Mhm.
damage to my ankle. And
Yeah.
like literally have had doctors tell me it's just a sprain, you'll be
Yeah.
fine, stay off of it. like, sir, I've been to the doctor five
Yeah.
times in the last year. It is not a sprain. There's something wrong down here. I ice it every day, and sir, it is
Yeah.
still swollen, right? So, like, literally
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
believing my own, like, opinion of the body that I have, that I've existed in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have
Yeah.
women who are holding another life going through the same thing that I went through for an ankle, right? The same
Yeah.
thing. Hey, this doesn't feel
Yeah.
right. Hey, I'm having pain here.
Yeah.
If we don't have a healthcare system in place that really supports, believes, and is technologically able to do the things it needs to do, then this is just going to
Mm-hmm.
create more, like, mortality, more trauma, more
Yeah.
problems
Yep.
within the Black community and our trust of the healthcare system. Like, this is a tragedy for Black women. It's a tragedy for all women,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a tragedy for Black women.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I also have my own story,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
was 15 in 10th grade and
Mm-hmm.
I kept going to the doctor. I was bleeding like nonstop. Like, it was a
Mm-hmm.
point where I bled for like 101 days. And I'm like, this
Wow.
isn't normal. I was just like, kept losing blood, kept losing blood. They put me on birth control, said, oh, it's just your hormones. Even with the birth control, I was bleeding for like extended periods of days. And they just kept saying, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
your hormones, it's your hormones. And I ended up switching my medical provider to one that looked like me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and at 22, after telling them at 15 that something was wrong with me, at 22, this doctor was like, "Well, let's go in and see," And I had a procedure done,
Mm-hmm.
and in that procedure, they found out that I had cancer. So for 7 years of me saying something's not right, something's not right, something's not right, and they're just telling me, "Oh no, at your age, it's just your hormones." And it was never my hormones. There was literally something not right, and nobody listened to me. One,
Yeah.
because I was Black. Two, I was female. And then three, I was young. Oh, what does this little girl know? She doesn't know anything. I know my body, and I know
Exactly.
something's not right within
Mm-hmm.
it. So to
Mm-hmm.
think of me trying to speak up for myself, as a quote unquote child, and not being taken seriously, the same thing happens with Black women who are pregnant that say, this is going on, this is what I'm feeling. Oh no, it's fine. Or we need to do this test on you. We have to do this on you to figure out X, Y, and Z. No, you don't. You want to experiment on me to get the extra funding and have me doing things or taking things
Yeah.
that may be detrimental to the health of my child. Like
Mm-hmm.
the days of women, especially Black women, being science experiments are over. Like, at some point,
Mm-hmm.
you have to listen to us as we try to advocate for ourselves and not tell us what's going on with us. Because clearly, you don't know. You don't walk every day in this body of mine. So when I'm telling you something's going on,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be compassionate enough to take the word of Black women or women of color or just women in general when they say that something is going on. It is more likely that Black women are pushed to the side because it's been stated that we can take more pain and we are the stronger of the races. We
Mm-hmm.
being a strong Black woman is exhausting AF, you know? And everybody wants us to walk around with this label of strong Black woman, and nobody else has to do this. So it's like, why do I have to be the strength of the world as a Black woman? Why do I have to be ignored because I can take it, have to be in pain because I can take it, have to be
Mm-hmm.
the bottom of the totem pole because I can take it? And
Yeah.
this new
Mm-hmm.
ruling pretty much has us on the because I can take it in of the medical world again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It does, and it's really frustrating, and it's really, like, I tell you this, like, every time I hear about this story, like, I'm sorry for all that you experienced in that. Like, because I can't imagine what what kind of feelings, what kind of thoughts, what kind of pressure that was put on you as a person and as a woman in that situation, and what kind of, like, feelings that you have gone through, have dealt with, have, like, tried to overcome in that process as well. And, like, I think about that, and, like, so many people go through that in so many different areas, right? So many people, so many black people, black women, like deal with not being able to be heard and understood in a place that, one, is a problem, two, is a for-profit healthcare, right? So like, you can't tell me that my doctor didn't know that I was TRICARE and I was not coming out the pocket for nothing that they did, right? Like, that's why, from my perspective, why I didn't get treated, right? Like TRICARE,
Yeah.
like I would say back then, TRICARE was great because they usually had predetermined prices and rates, so doctors knew exactly what they were going to get paid for something. If the doctors didn't want to do it, they didn't do it. They give you 2 pills and send you on your way. But it's like, I know I had the privilege of having good insurance and having like a surgery that I still don't understand how it cost $150,000. Like, I don't get it. But yeah, I had this $150,000 surgery. I didn't have to come out of my pocket. And there are women who are going to have babies and are not going to be able to afford what it costs to have that baby. They're going to go to hospitals and have to find ways to like make it work. And it's sad, and it's a cycle that is going to continue to like leave people in poverty, and take people from maybe a stable place, maybe middle class, into poverty because of insurance and our healthcare system. Like, there's so many like impacts that this is going to have on our country as a whole, on states as a whole, and it's something that needs to just be just reevaluated, and states need to do better. America, we need to do better. Period. Point blank.
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing else to say about it.
Yeah. It is definitely disheartening to know
Yeah.
that in 2022 somebody can still make the decision for me. You know, it's just one of those things where we have got to do better at being compassionate, at listening, at reading the room. Like, read the fucking room, bruh. Like, you know, like, why are we still making decisions for other people who are of sound mind and body that can make those decisions for themselves, especially when there are other people that are doing things to affect the people that are of sound body and mind, to put them in the situations that they end up in, you know? So again, if you're going to hold one group to a standard, then another group has also have to be held to some kind of level of standards and or accountability. Again, women cannot impregnate themselves. You know, it takes male sperm to help with that, you know. So if we're going to put sanctions on women and their bodies, then there needs to be some sanctions on men and how they're shooting the clubs up around here. And when I say shooting the club up, I mean impregnate women and ejaculating into women, you know. So just for clarity, I don't mean they out here shooting clubs with guns. So I want to clarify
Even though that's
that for any of
happening
our
too,
listeners that,
right?
you know,
Like,
right, even though that's happening too. But, you know, again, it has to be some kind of balance. You know, you can't just put sanctions on one group and not put some level of accountability on a group that helps, again, in the process of putting women into certain situations.
Absolutely. So I got a list here, and I want to tell everybody the list of states where abortion is restricted and or banned. And this is just for your FYI.
It's time to move if you can.
If you can, get out now. And the other states that I do not list, either it's to be determined because they have a law in place or ballot coming up for a vote, or it is legal. So the places where it is restricted or banned is Idaho, Utah, Tennessee, Wyoming, Kentucky, Arizona, Indiana, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida, North and South Dakota, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, and South Carolina.
So I have to make a correction. North Carolina is not on that list.
As of
North
today,
Carolina
they were.
It's not illegal. Are you sure? Because Governor Roy Cooper made a statement saying that it was still going to be the choice of the woman. So North Carolina is not on that list.
So I will say that this, like I said, is restricted or banned. So maybe it is available and they have a choice, but it may be restricted in North Carolina. But as of today, the AP reported that North Carolina was on that list under restricted and or banned for abortions. So I'm not sure. I'm just, like I said, I'm just reporting what the AP says.
Okay. So I think we might have looked at two different lists. Because your list is definitely longer than mine. And or what I saw. But I do know again that as far as North Carolina is concerned, we are not on that list of illegal or, restricted, because again, Roy Cooper said that we are a state of choice and we remain a state of choice.
So for North Carolina, you're restricted after 20 weeks. So they have a ban on.
That's after the first trimester.
Yeah, so there's a ban on abortion after 20 weeks for North Carolina. That's all I got.
So that basically falls in line.
Quick research.
Okay. All right. So that falls in line with what Roe v. Wade protected and the Planned Parenthood protected in regards to the trimesters. So within that first trimester, it is still the woman's choice to terminate. And then you go through second trimester where the government can step in depending on circumstances. And then the third trimester, it is prohibited unless it affects the health of the mother. So North Carolina is still staying in the terms of what Roe v. Wade and the Planned Parenthood cases established.
Yeah, it says, and it also says abortions won't be blocked in North Carolina until 2023 at the soonest. So there may be some things that we can dive into there, but it seems like it is a little bit in flux in North Carolina with some of the things that are going on, maybe behind the scenes, or with some of the restrictions regarding who it's available to, when you can get in, things of that nature. But as of this moment, it is it's banned after 20 weeks, and it could be banned in 2023. And that's coming from the Fayetteville Observer. Yeah. Yeah. So it might be time for you to move too. It might be time for you to get the hell out of North Carolina.
I mean, I've been saying that for a minute anyway, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess we've covered a lot, and I know there's so much we both would like to say, so much we both like to touch on. There's so much nuance in this space, and I want to let you all know that this a lot of this is our opinion. Some of it is some research that we did, but a lot of this is just raw feeling and how we're feeling in these moments of talking. And so if there's anything that we said that didn't come off right, or that fact checked and is wrong, we apologize. This is not, again, we believe in the woman's right to choose, and we are advocates for women in this space. And I just want to be clear on that stance, and whatever we can do to support, uplift, promote. If you have an organization that is helping women in these moments, please let us know about it. We would love to share that on this space and in our platform. Reese, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Um, I have one that sticks out for sure is my body, my choice. I feel like people should have the right to decide what happens with their bodies. I also feel like if
Mm-hmm.
we are going to put sanctions on women, then we need to start holding men accountable for their actions or lack thereof. So if it's not my body, my choice, then it's you are accountable from the point of conception until 18 when this child is on their own. So we just got to do
Mm-hmm.
better about this word freedom that we throw around, and it's the buzzword, I guess, of the world, because that's all it is in this moment, is a buzzword, because
Yeah.
there's no freedom in the land of the free, and those decisions keep being made or shown by decisions that continue to be made. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's totally understandable. Um, how you feel is obviously valid. It is your body. It is your choice. I believe in the same. Like if I wanted to get a vasectomy, if if I want to wear a condom, like all these things are my choice. And like I think it's so
Mhm.
ridiculous that some states are going to allow. First of all, it's ridiculous that the Supreme Court has determined that women do not have autonomy over their body. Second of all, it's crazy that there will be states
Yeah,
who restrict and try to prosecute women for trying to have autonomy over their bodies. Like it's amazing to me.
yeah,
And you said something
it's
about
crazy.
freedom, and there's a survey that was done a couple years ago saying that the U.S. is the 15th freest country in the world. So that means we're not even in the top 10 of free countries in the in the world, right?
Amen.
The 15th freest. So this
Amen.
is this is the home of the 15th freest, the land of the 15th freest. We're like I don't know what you call us. We're not even in the top 5. Like
Yeah,
the land of the free. No, not even the
yeah.
top 10. You know. So I think my some of
Mm-mm.
my final thoughts are I think I would like to start an organization that really supports women and gets women to places that helps them get abortions if they need one. I think that I have a hard time thinking about raising kids in this country. I still do not feel safe in this country. And these things that happen, I know that this doesn't necessarily affect me directly. And I want to support those that it does. And also, I'm worried about a future where this is even a possibility at this point. Um, and
Yeah,
I just think America needs to do better. Like we need to do better as a whole. We need to find ways to really bring in some new life into our political system. Like it's crazy
yeah,
to think about how old our president is, how old our last president is, how old our senators and
yeah,
our House of Representatives and our U.S. Supreme Court.
yeah.
Like 70s, 65s, 60s. Like
Mhm.
I'm damn near 40, and I don't feel that any of these people represent me as a black man in the U.S.
Yeah,
and it just
yeah,
it's disheartening. And um, like I said earlier, that I continue to lose faith in this nation. I continue to feel less valued. I continue to feel more disposable, and I know that other people are having those feelings as
yeah.
well. And hopefully, at the very least, we can create a space for for us to feel valued, for us to feel like
Yeah,
free. And I hope we can continue to have conversations and try to find ways to come together. And that's all I can ask in this
yeah,
moment. I feel like that's all I have to give in this moment. And again, if you have an organization that supports women to have autonomy over their bodies, that supports women to get to places they need to go so they can have safe abortions, please let us know. We'd love to big you up and get your name out there. But yeah, I think that's all I got for today.
Yeah. All right, that is pretty much, yeah, sums it up for you and I. You know, I always say this quote. It's one of my favorites. You are only responsible for today.
Mm-hmm.
All other days will take care of themselves. Be gentle with yourselves and make sure that you are putting yourself in the best situations as best you can to ensure that you are well and are fully present for yourself.
Absolutely. Chillers, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. I know we didn't talk about this episode prior in our intro, but this is something we just felt we needed to talk about. And so that's why we jammed in this episode, and we're really excited to share it with you. And thank you for supporting us. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. We out.
Bye,